There we go. All right. All right, well, thank you for coming to my TEDx tonight. Tonight we're going to be talking about the medicinal mushrooms. And, you know, we have a 8-acre farm right here in Liberty, South Carolina. So those of you who have not come by and see us, we have tours and stuff, just come on by. I think we've got a lot of interesting things there for you to learn. But tonight we're going to concentrate on the mushrooms that are right here in your backyard. We have over 100 species in our laboratory, mostly native. And I think you'll be surprised as to what they can do for us. All right, so I grew up in, actually spent a year in Egypt when I was young, military family, and was fascinated by the culture. You know, and first of all, we have to give thanks to the beer and bread inventors of the planet, right? First discovering the use of fungi, trading fungi even between the villages to keep it active, biologically active, and much safer than water, just like today. Look, this guy's having a really bad hair day, but this is Otzi the Iceman. Has anybody heard of Otzi? He's the frozen in the Alps, Austrian Alps. He was discovered by some tourists, and more importantly, what they found was on his belongings were, in his possessions, were mushrooms. Some of the mushrooms were medicinal. He actually had them use them on a leather strap in a little ball, so you can actually suck on them like a lozenge. And they were actually good for intestinal parasites. And these mushrooms grow right up here in the Pisgah National Forest here in the southeast. This one was also used as a razor strop. It can sharpen razor blades. All right, and the other one, more importantly, is called the fire starter. Now, with a name like fire starter, you can only imagine this one is highly flammable. And this one is also used for intestinal parasites. You know, Olga and I, we collect these right here in the mountains, right up in Asheville. And these are very hard conchs. They can live to be many, many years old, and they're very hard. So this is a mushroom that you would not want to eat. Right? These are extremely hard. We've got some on display here. But you can powder them and make a tincture and extract, which I'll show you in a minute. And then, you know, fast forwarding many, many years ago, we've got the penicillin, you know, turned in by a housewife on a moldy cantaloupe, produced thousands of times more penicillin than any other strain. You know, this was a national security effort. So with this one moldy cantaloupe actually created enough penicillin, you know, where we can give our troops overseas. So this has a profound impact on our society, finding these different fungi. And these could be growing in your backyard. They could be growing inside of your fridge right now. Right? And so it evolved, the production of penicillin evolved. So the technology had to evolve with our discoveries. And so this is what it looks like, and we do this in our lab. This is penicillin inhibiting, you know, bacteria. And this is inter-kingdom interaction at its basic form. And also, this is a better time-lapse of fungi, how they grow, how quickly they grow. And we took this time-lapse over a period of 2 days in our lab. So mushrooms are extremely opportunistic. They go from a size of a dime. This is only a 3-week-old mushroom, and then it goes from the size of a dime to a large grapefruit in just 2 days. This is a 2-day time-lapse. Right? I know it's 2 days because I stayed up and took a picture for 30 minutes, every 30 minutes, for 2 days. I said, oh, time-lapse technology. So this is what a mushroom looks like. Whenever you find a mushroom in the woods, whenever you turn over a log, you'll notice those little white filaments. A mushroom never really wants to fruit a mushroom. It's a defense mechanism. So whenever a mushroom fruits, it's running out of food. It's desperate. So this is the fungi, and these are actually some experiments we're doing now through Clemson, kind of floating mycelium on water, almost like a hydroponic style cultivation method. And what I'm trying to do is to lure and to trap different bacteria that are symbiotic with different mushrooms. Some of these mushrooms will not fruit unless they're under the presence of other fungi. And that's important because they'll produce different antibiotics. You know, they produce different antiviral compounds. So this is a King Stropharia mushroom floating on top of water, picking up bacteria like hitchhikers, and picking them up and cultivating them on their skin, just like we cultivate bacteria on our skin. So this is what I call Endo-kingdom interactions. This is what, right now, is what I'm really passionate about. I've been growing 1,000 pounds of mushrooms a week, all my life, but now I'm turning to these interactions. You can see animalia and fungi way up there in the corner, positioned very conveniently together. And so a lot of the things that affect those fungi and humans are very similar. So that's the good thing about the fungi, just like this. And sometimes serendipity is king. We always grow things in pure monoculture. Our society has taught us to grow corn in rows and do everything in pure form. And now I don't look at it, the same way at all. And I don't think we should be teaching it the same way in college. We always teach about streaking and purifying all the bacteria. Well, this is a case where in my lab I threw away a petri plate of a fungus. It was a contaminant in my plate, or was it? So I looked back, and then I looked at the natural progression of the fungus, which has a symmetrical form. And look at this surge over the top of this other fungus. The white you see is my mushroom, and the green you see is Aspergillus. It's a common mold. It surged over the competitor as if to say, this is my plate. This is my territory. And so what we noticed was the significant increase of metabolites sweating over the top of this other mold. What would you do if you were a mushroom? And trust me, I actually think that I am a mushroom. So, and that actually, I could use that. If you think like a fungus, think like a mushroom, you can actually predict what these things will do. So this fungus is producing a significant increase in metabolites. So what does that do to our whole penicillin model? We're growing penicillin in monoculture. What if we stress them with different contaminants? We can produce novel metabolites. These fungi are like factories. They have the tools. It's an assembly line. Now, if we put something in there, in that same arena with them, they'll completely change their machinery inside that factory and produce a whole new set of novel metabolites filled with enzymes, antibiotics, antiviral compounds. This is a brand new set of research that's going on right now. So when you do find a mushroom, take a look at it. When you see it in your backyard, it may be exuding some of these metabolites. This is a Boletus frostii, beautiful, like these jeweled, full of enzymes too. Some of them are soluble in water and some are not. And this is one of my latest pictures and one of my favorites. This is, I'm a total mushroom nerd when this is my laptop background, okay? These are two species of fungi meeting, and this huge wall, it's almost like watching two armies meet and watching them battle it out. So that's what I've done, and I've switched my research to actually producing galleries of almost like gladiator-style galleries of different fungi and bacteria together. And look at this production of metabolites. You can actually suck this up with a syringe and run it through a chromatograph, and you will find all kinds of new compounds and molecules. So it's really just trying to set it up. All right, this is one of my arenas out of 20. I've created 20 different arenas. This is one of my favorites. So the fungi, we just put on a plate, the F and the two bacteria, just 2 little drops of bacteria on the plate. And within 3 days, the bacteria completely stream and they run away from the fungus. They want out, right? So these different compounds, this is a shiitake fungus. This is a common edible mushroom here. So we're starting to screen all of our mushrooms with different E. coli and hopefully to move on to much more pathogenic bacteria like Vibrio cholera for Haiti. All right, so let's get down to maybe some of the mushrooms that you might see, some of that you might recognize in your yard. And I think you'll be surprised as to some of their properties. These are oyster mushrooms that you might find in the grocery store. They're actually fruiting right now. Some fruit in the summer and some in the winter. So these are pink oyster mushrooms. This is the native one in the upper right, Pleurotus austriatus. This is right up here at Issaquena Falls on a nice long big poplar. Edible mushrooms, but more importantly, this mushroom here, the first HIV trials in California just happened last year. So this is an edible medicine. We can no longer think of mushrooms as just an add-on. You know, this is the main course. This is the Chinese believe that if you eat it, they're eating the medicine. It is not food, it is edible medicine. These are also full of selenium. All right, so this is also another one here. This is a enoki or velvet foot. It looks a lot different than you would find it in the store. This is how it looks in the wild. And I can't express that more to researchers or people who are eating mushrooms. You know, when you're buying a mushroom in the store, you can't guarantee, you know, exactly the history of that fungus. You know, it could have been an isolate back from the 1900s early. It's been propagated repeatedly over and over. This is the natural pigments. Mushrooms that grow in the sun are also synthesizing vitamin D. You know, it's one of the only other non-animal sources of vitamin D, which is we're extremely deficient in. Worldwide global problem is vitamin D deficiency. It would be the same as raising a chicken or 30,000 chickens in a chicken house and wondering why the chickens that crawl around and scratch around in the sun are healthier for you. So here's the pigments, much different. And there's the little one on the left. That's the one that was growing under the leaves. Look at the pigments. They're completely, it's an albino. So you're getting a lot more synthesizing from the radiation. You're using the wavelengths of sunlight to produce different compounds like vitamin D. A new one, this one is on a very small scale being cultivated in the United States. If you were to try to buy this one in the US, right now you would have to buy it dried, and you would probably have to shell out about $300 a pound for this sucker. All right, so this one grows on manure. It's very high in activity in different anti-cancer compounds. That's one of the reasons that the price is so high, and one of the reasons that we can't get it is because the pharmaceutical companies are buying every pound of this from Brazil and Japan right now, and they're putting it in pills. So we really need to get, this is a native mushroom. It was first found in Florida. So this is an easy one to grow. It grows on manure. You know, this is one we can grow if you have any manure or livestock or farm. You know, you could be planting this one. We can get around the pharmaceutical companies. I'm not sure if Robin's here. This is a chaga. This was actually one of the teas that was served tonight. A very large, doesn't look like anything that you would just jump out and say, I want to eat that. You know, it looks like a big massive rock that grows on a tree. It's a sclerotia, or it's a tumor basically of the tree. It's a pathogen, but it's really good. Has a lot of beta-glucans. It's a lot of antiviral properties to it, anti-cancer properties. Interesting that these fungi are growing on these trees, and they have all these properties that are beneficial for the humans. So anyway, we prepared that tea tonight. Look at the size of that. That's for scale, and thank you, Robin, for the pictures. And she donated a very small fragment of this mushroom to us about 3 weeks ago. And we've already cloned it, and we've already been able to propagate it. So from this one mushroom, we can make millions of them. We don't have to harvest from the wild anymore. We don't have to go out there. This is a Whittier. And a lot of you are probably thinking, well, I would never eat that. Right? It's all rubbery and soft. I bet you have. If you've had a sweet and sour soup at the Chinese buffet, they usually float these chopped up really finely. They're kind of crunchy and they pop almost like seaweed. But these have some anticoagulative properties that are very good. What they lack in flavor, they make up for texture and medicinal properties. So bronchial stimulation, anticoagulant, a good mushroom to consume on a regular basis. This one, now is that chef look happy? You know, this was one of my first maitakes that I ever found. This is Grifola frondosa for leaf-like, and I actually have one up here on the table. We just found 3 of them in one day. So these grow on the bases of large oaks up here. It's a great edible, but more importantly, these mushrooms are high in compounds that have shown high activity against cancer in mice. And we've also done some human trials with some of the folks going through chemotherapy. You know, it's okay to use this for adjunctive therapy with chemotherapy when they tell you that don't use any more vitamins or anything like that. These stimulate your white helper T cells to go after non-self cells. They can differentiate between human and non-human cells. And there's Olga there for scale, right? And some of my favorite mushrooms, and these are a lot harder to find. But if you are crawling around your yard, or if you have a creek, these mushrooms are fungi that attack other truffles or insects. And these are some of the ones that I've got growing and killing fire ants right now. These are mainly found in the mountains. We've got the upper left. This is a Cordyceps militaris. Below left is the Cordyceps that I found on the black carpenter ant. And on the right is a Cordyceps growing out of the head of a cicada nymph. You know, we found these right here in the state. You know, I've identified about 5 species. These are highly active in different insects. This one is fruiting out of a head of a small larvae. You know, can you see the recurring theme? The back of the head. This is one that Olga found here, a wasp upside down. 2 mushrooms fruiting out of the neck. And what generally will happen is these insects, when they're infected, the worker or the guards will bury them and dig a hole and stuff them down into the ground where the mushroom fruits, because they don't want the queens to get infected at all. So these are very hard to find. This group of fungi were used with the Chinese track runners. I don't know if you know, a couple of years ago, where they won like 8 or 9 gold medals. They were using this fungus. It's actually stimulates your bronchial oxygen intake in your lungs, also like a stimulant. And this is our native one here, Cordyceps militaris. We've only known maybe a couple different places up here in the Asheville area. Grows. It's about the length of your eyelash. You really have to be looking down to find these. And when you dig these up, this is the head of them. They always have these pitted little heads like this. Very small, but when you dig them up, like you should any mushroom, because they may have an underground structure, then you'll notice that that fungus is attached to a moth larvae, you know, and that's what their host is. So when you see something like that, you dig it up, and then look at that perfect little moth larvae sticking up like that. It's amazing that a fungus can attack a little insect and impart a wonderful amount of medicinal properties just from a fungus growing on an insect like that. Here's their Cordyceps, just all bug-eyed looking at you. All right, so now some of the other compounds this is one of my favorites, the breast cancer. It's basically an epidemic, you know, genetic or from exposure to different types of products or food system. This is turkey tail, and these are set up on tables all around the room. Is a very common fungus that you'll see, you can see in your yard, or if you go on a walk. These are Termites versicolor, and the compounds are identified as PSK. All right, and these particular compounds are highly active against cancer cells. What they'll do is it's basically like having a chemical highlighter. Right, when you're eating these mushrooms, or you're making these extracts that you're taking up here at the bar, those compounds are getting into your bloodstream and your lymph system. And what they're doing is acting like a chemical highlighter and getting into your immune system, and they're highlighting and marking non-self cells. That helps your immune system go out and start attacking the cells that don't belong. You know, so they're not directly killing them, but they're helping on marking them. All right. All right, this is your brain on mushrooms right here. All right. And these are neurons, and luckily, after the apple martinis kick in, you know, tomorrow morning, some of those same cordyceps have been involved with amazing studies with Alzheimer patients in reducing the effects of memory loss. And so it acts as a chemical memory protectant. It protects the sheath of your neuron, and it also stimulates adult brain stem cells. So we can all use that a little bit more on Saturday morning, right? And this is one of my favorites. This is lion's mane. I actually have one right here. And you can come up and take a look at that. This is actually a medium-sized one. I'll collect lion's mane, these pom-poms that weigh about 15 pounds a piece. All right. This one tastes like crab meat or lobster. That should get you out there looking for these, right? This is good edible, gourmet edible medicine right here. This one has been shown to stimulate and regenerate adult brain stem cells. You know, perfect mushroom. Tastes like lobster. And one of the prizes of the Orient that's gaining in popularity now, even showing up as Ganoderma or reishi coffee and reishi tea. This one, we grow this one in our greenhouse and in our trail. This is reishi, ling chi, one of the most prized mushrooms in China. And these are full of acids. This is ganoderic acid. So again, when you saw that mushroom sweating out all these enzymes, these are the type of compounds that are in there. They're hiding. And a lot of them we haven't even identified yet, but this one is ganoderic acid. And what these do is they're extremely efficient at sugar regulation. So when you think of sugar regulation and inflammation and diabetes and all these other ailments that come with a modern culinary diet, these mushrooms can be infused into different products and should become a normal part of your therapy. And this is agarikon, and this one was shown earlier. And this particular mushroom that you see there, if you can count the layers on this mushroom, every single layer you see, that's a year of growth. This is about a 30-year-old mushroom. All right, and we found a mushroom this summer that I believe it probably formed up here in the forest back in 1980 when I was only 7 years old. And we found just about 3 or 4 of them. Extremely rare, and I do not like removing these from the forest. So we'll take a little piece and then we'll propagate it. That particular mushroom was active against the pox viruses, West Nile, monkeypox, and bird flu, West Nile bird flu. So what it does is it acts, again, as a chemical highlighter. It's going to prevent replication. It'll keep it from going into the cell or leaving the cell. And it's going to stick to some of those receptors and to mark it out. So it's a seek and destroy type of method, but it's frankly odd that these conchs that I've paid no attention to for years, always concentrating on the edible mushrooms, the chanterelles and the morels, the truffles. Don't those sound so much better? But these other mushrooms are absolutely amazing, especially the polypores. Polypores meaning the very hard gilled mushrooms. Now, how could I forget with this group, the psychedelics? All right, so we're going to go a little bit edgy for a second, but this is Psilocybe cubensis. Psilocybe is a genus of mushrooms that possesses psilocybin and other compounds. But more recently, the research by Roland Griffith from Johns Hopkins University, and I would recommend referencing that other TED video at this moment if you're watching at home. Roland Griffith at Johns Hopkins is doing some amazing research with the psilocybin compounds. These are therapies that are being used for psychopharmacology observations of patients who are terminally ill or late-stage cancer, dealing with the imminent, end-of-life experience. These compounds, for 2 doses under controlled conditions, extended life 6 months, 1 month, even 5 years longer than they were expected. They said the results were absolutely phenomenal. So right now, psilocybin is illegal. It's a Schedule, I think it's a Schedule 2. So there are some amazing things going on with the magic mushrooms. And here's the stash here. You've got the bluing compounds. That's an oxidation effect. So you had to include the magic mushrooms. That's the most commonly one that I'm always asked about. So this is what a fungus looks like on a plate. And these are one of our 100 mushrooms that we have. And this is how I store them. This is my hard drive, in the lab. This is what it looks like. All right. And so in order to make an extract, which we've made some of those tonight, we could take one mushroom, just like this, one of these mushrooms from the table, just a tiny, tiny bit, a very small fragment, just about the size of your, like this here, like a fingernail piece. And I could stick it on a Petri plate, and within a week, I can make 5 pounds, and within another week, I can make 100 pounds. So within about 11 weeks, I can make about 1 million pounds of this fungus just from that tiny little piece. All right, and then we'll blend it up in ethanol and make an extract. And this comprises what you're imbibing in tonight is what I called a myco-infusion. It's an infusion process. If you soak a fungus in ethanol for about 2 weeks, it breaks down the chitin and releases all of the medicinal properties. So what I decided to do is, for our first release for the infusion, is I brew beer, and I wanted to make one of the world's first medicinal mushroom beers. So we brewed up about 216 gallons at the Shroom Fest, the Telluride Mushroom Festival, and I think we ran out in about 48 hours. So everybody was happy and healthy and probably a little drunk too. But and anything in moderation, right? If you were to think of a delivery system like this, you could also put the same extract. It's almost flavorless in baby food. You could put it in yogurt, health food, dietary supplements, just about anything. So this is kind of like my way of teaching everybody. You could take a turkey tail from the back of your creek, grind it up, put it in ethanol for 2 weeks, and then you can make your own extract. So it's very simple. This is us putting it in the kegs. It's TJ. So we made the beer first, and then we brewed it up. So no matter where you are in the world, there are fungi everywhere. I basically went over some of our native species, but no matter where you are traveling, realize that there are cultures that depend on mushrooms, not only for food, but for medicine. Mushrooms are 95+% water. This is clean water. They've filtered it. They put it into this little package. So as you're eating that mushroom, you're actually getting nice, clean water. And probably the most commonly asked question is, can I send you a picture of this mushroom, and is it edible? And my first response is, every mushroom is edible, right? Every mushroom is edible for 30 minutes. And you'll know which one it is in 30 minutes. So all around the world, we've got some mushrooms going like that. And again, and I always finish with a slide like this, is those mushrooms are rare, and these are our backyards. And whenever I'm driving around and I see these clear cuts, I'm just thinking like, wow, they just wiped out a whole ecosystem. What if there was rare fungi in there? We have some pockets up in the Pisgah forest where only one spot that I know that one mushroom grows on, and that's the one that stimulates the brain cells. So, when I see something like this, I kind of take it personally. And this is what I really want to see, is taking care of the forest, taking care of our backyards. Most of the property in the U.S. is private. So if we can put it under easements, take good care of our forests, and take good care of our mushrooms, right? And that's what I want for all of you and all of us. You have mushrooms growing in your backyard. Be curious, but be safe. Remember, every mushroom is edible once, all right? So that's it. Thank you so much.